I live? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Dr. Olu Asekun podcast. Today is another Wednesday. Remember to join us every Wednesday, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. Yes, I can hear myself. Remember to invite your family and friends, co-workers. Join us for valuable immigration information every Wednesday, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. That is Dallas time. That is 1 p.m. Eastern Time. That is 10 a.m. Pacific Time. And that is 6 p.m. Nigerian Time. Thank you again for joining us today. Also, remember to subscribe to our channel so that whenever we go live, you will be notified. Today, we are discussing fraudulent documents. We are still discussing the inadmissibility series, but today we are focusing on fraudulent documents, submitting fraudulent documents, because it's becoming very, very rampant and it is constituting a ground for immigration benefit deniers. That is why we want to address it today. Fraudulent documents. So, if you have questions, you can start sending the questions so that I can address the specific needs. But today, we are discussing fraudulent documents. Now, it is against the law in the United States for anybody to submit fraudulent or forged or altered documents to the government or to any official of the United States government. It is a crime. Because immigration is a civil matter, it's not a criminal matter. So most of the time when people submit fraudulent documents, the only consequence they face, at least at the initial stage, is the denial of the benefit. Recently, there is a specific upsurge in altered documents. In fact, in our office here, we have seen several notices of intent to deny, and all pointing to documents that immigration allege are not valid, are fraud or altered. Some of them were able to be corrected depending on the nature of the alteration or fraud. Some of them we have not been able to correct. And because of the upsurge in this problem, that is why I've decided. There are different kinds of fraudulent documents. Some people intentionally submit fraudulent documents. Some people unknowingly submit fraudulent documents. Unfortunately, whichever way it is, whether it is unknowingly or intentionally, the benefit will still be denied. Whatever application you file will still be denied. In some limited cases, an applicant may be able to file a waiver, apply for a waiver. There is a waiver of fraud document. There is a waiver for altered document. But not everybody is eligible for the waiver. It depends on the kind of petition that you file. It depends on the application that is pending. And it also depends on who the... Apology about that. It also depends on the nature of the application. So, but some people may be able to apply for a waiver and some people may not. Now, one thing I want to say is that technology is advancing, and it is advancing at a very alarming rate. If you want to file any petition, if you are not sure of the document, I advise you that you first consult with an experienced immigration attorney who may be able to look at the document and advise you appropriately Some of, from our experience here at our office, some of the areas where we encounter a lot of fraudulent documents is in the area of divorce document from foreign countries. There have been series of cases where an applicant and his spouse will apply for a visa as married couple. Both of them will be given the visa. In some cases, both of them will enter the United States legally, and then, for some reason, they will go their separate ways and now submitting a divorce document that was from their home country. And most of the time, this divorce document will be dated prior to their entry into the United States. I tell you, that is a major red flag. It is either the divorce document is not valid or the applicant obtained visa by fraud. It cannot be, one of them must be wrong. Both of them cannot be right. So it is, if they have been divorced before they came, then it means that when they came in as a couple, they were not being truthful. That is misrepresentation. That is a ground for denial. Or they came in as a couple, but they provided a fake divorce document or altered divorce document that indicated that they had been divorced at a time they were not divorced. So both of them cannot be right. These are some of the things that raises red flag. There are some countries that are well known for submitting these fraudulent documents. I'm not going to be mentioning a specific name or names, but the truth of the matter is immigration is familiar with all these things. They are familiar with the way documents are obtained in every country of the world. The Department of State is the one that controls the U.S. Embassy all around the world. The Department of State have access to information about how valid documents are obtained in every single country. So many of these people are submitting these fake documents or altered documents, believing that immigration cannot find out. Yes, in the past, immigration may not be able to find out, especially at a time when there were no coordination between the different agencies of government. United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, even if they don't have direct dealings with foreign countries to be able to know what obtains in those countries, now, because they can deal with those countries through the Department of State, they obtain all the information required from the Department of State. In addition to that, all the embassies, they are under the Department of. They could see the question from the consular officers and they could see the response. They could see a copy of the application that was submitted online for visa. So they could see a lot of these things. So when somebody appears for interview, let's say April 2022, and listed in his or her application that he is married, listed the name of his or her spouse, and then the person was given visa. Maybe the person came to the US in August 2022. Now, the person will go back to get a divorce that is dated maybe March 2022, or in some cases, some people think they are smarter. They will put a date of May 2022, claiming that, oh, the divorce has already been pending. So the divorce was pending. You appeared at the embassy as a couple. You didn't mention that you were in divorce court. You came in August and you entered the US as a couple. Meanwhile, you now claim that you have been divorced since May. I mean, it doesn't make sense. And even if it does, it's still going to raise a red flag. We see this all the time. And that is why we are addressing this topic today. By now, I expect people to have started sending in questions relating fraudulent document. That is what we are discussing today. I think I'm going to need help to assess the questions, please. Please start sending your questions. Start sending your questions. We are discussing fraudulent documents today. Okay, we have some questions here. The first question: what is the penalty for falsifying immigration documents? Well, the penalty depends on the nature of the application, and it also depends on the nature of the applicant or petitioner. For example, some petitions or some applications, the consequence may be, for some applications or petitions, the consequence may be permanent. For some, the consequence may be only a denial of that particular benefit. For some, the consequence may allow the applicant or petitioner to apply for a waiver. And for some, the consequence may lead to criminal prosecution. So it depends on a lot of things. For example, if it is somebody who submitted a fake divorce document, that means that the marriage that was purported to have been terminated, it means that that marriage was not properly terminated. And because in the United States, it's a crime to be married to more than one person at the same time, it means that the current marriage will not be valid. So if this was a family petition based on marriage, if it is determined that the divorce document is not valid, that petition will be denied, because it means that the new marriage is not a valid marriage. You cannot build something on nothing. So it simply means that except the previous marriage was properly terminated, this new marriage will not be valid. So now, if in this case, if the applicant is still in love with the new petitioner or with the petitioner, they can go ahead and file a proper divorce here in the US. When that divorce becomes final, they can either remarry themselves or, depending on the state, some. But in limited situation, it can also lead to criminal prosecution. So it depends on the nature of the document that was submitted or the nature of the petition or application that was filed. Next question: what are the examples of document falsification? Yeah, I've given a couple of examples. I mean, people do forge a birth certificate, maybe a child that is getting close to 21, and because they want to make sure that the child is not age out, then they go back to forge the birth certificate to reduce the child's age so that the child will still qualify. Sometimes, I mean, it could lead to a greater problem. So that is an example. Another example is the one I already mentioned about fake divorce document. That is another example. Another one is a fake or inaccurate or inadequate adoption document. People falsify all kinds of documents. We've seen different types. So there are so many examples. The next question: what is the statute of limitation for lying to immigration? There is no statute of limitation. There is no statute of limitation for lying to immigration. If you lie to immigration once, it's going to be there permanently. 100 years, it will be there. In actual fact, this question reminds me of a client. I once represented a client who became a US citizen in 1982. This client became a US citizen in 1982. Recently, the client was attempting to bring in an adopted child from overseas. And because the client is a US citizen, the client is required to process what is called home study. Home study will go into the family home, look at who is living there, conduct a background check on them, make sure that the proposed adoptive child is not going to be used for child trafficking or anything like that. There's no criminal living in that. So the home study company will write a report. So in this particular case, the home study report stated that that client never had a child, that the couple has never. When he applied at that time, he stated that he had a child. He stated in his application in 1982 that he had a child. Now the home study report is saying that he has never had a child. So which of them is to be believed? Of course, I'm not going to tell you what I did regarding that application, but that is an example of letting you know that there is no statute of limitation with lie. Lie is lie. Once you lie, it goes into your record permanently until the person dies. So there's no way out. The next question: could there be criminal charges based on fraudulent documents? Yes, there could be criminal charges. Criminal charges is very rare, but it does happen. For example, during the immediate past administration, during President Donald Trump administration, enforcement was very, very high, and some of them included criminal prosecution. But the law is always there. It is a crime when you do these things. But whether the law will be enforced or not, that is a matter of policy. It depends on, even illegal entry is an offense. Coming into the US without EWI, entry without inspection, it's an offense. Submitting a false document is an offense. But whether the offense will be enforced or not, that is a matter of priority for each administration. An example of an administration that enforced some of these laws is the immediate past administration of Donald Trump. The next question: is there a way that I can come clean before immigration finds out if I use fraudulent document? Yes, but it is a delicate thing. But the answer is yes. It depends on, you see, this is one of those questions that you don't really get a straightforward answer to. Because before I advise a client to come clean, one, I have to explain to the client the consequence of coming clean. Two, I have to look at, is the client going to be able to get a waiver? Three, even if the client does not have a waiver, is the client going to be in jeopardy? Is the client going to be at risk of being removed from the United States? What is going to be the consequence? So there are so many things. So we place all of these things on the table and explain it clearly to the client, and then allow the client to make up his mind or her mind to take his or her own decision whether to come out clean or not. There are some lies that you better go into the grave with it. And there are some lies that it is advisable that you come out clean. Next question: is the document still fraudulent if it was my own document, but it was altered? Could immigration find out? Oh yes, altered documents have the same consequence. Let me give you an example. I have a recent case, a very, very solid case that I was 100% sure of approval. Then suddenly, immigration issued notice of intent to deny. In the notice of intent to deny, they allege that the list that was submitted was fraud. Of course, that is something I don't have control over. So I had to call the client. Is this list fraud? Because there was really no basis for submission. Stated in their notice of intent to deny, they stated clearly that they contacted the landlord, the real owner of that property. And the landlord's verification conflicted with the document that was submitted. At the end of the day, after additional investigation, we found out that the document was actually fraud, was actually altered. So what do you do in such a situation? So even if it is your own document and you forge it, yeah, it will still have negative effect, and immigration can always find out. Yes. And let me say this. I keep saying at every opportunity that you cannot build something on nothing. No matter how long before they found out, it does not matter. There is no statute of limitation when it comes to submitting fraudulent documents. I mean, I just gave an example of somebody who stated in 1982 that he didn't have a child. And then recently, he was applying for adoption. No, in 1982, he stated that he had a child. Recently, he stated that he never had a child. So, it's going to be a permanent problem. It is going to be a permanent problem. The next question. My ex-spouse provided me with a copy of our divorce decree. I submitted it to USCIS. They now issue a notice of intent to deny because they are saying the document is not legit. I was not aware of this. Can it be fixed? Well, again, this is not a yes or no answer. Some cases can be fixed, some cannot. So I can't give you a yes or no answer without additional information. But yes, in some cases, it can be fixed. In some cases, it cannot. For example, it can be fixed if it is a kind of document that the error emanated from the issuing authority. It may be fixed. In some other cases, you may even have to do, in this type of situation, you may have to do a new divorce decree here, a new divorce here, to properly terminate the previous marriage. But again, this is a general answer. I'm not going to tell you yes or no without knowing additional. Every case is different. There are no two immigration cases that are the same. Every case is different. We have seen two people use the same exact document, and one will scale through and the other will have a problem. So every case is different. So I cannot sit here and tell you that no, you cannot do this, or tell you that no, you can do this. So I will need more information before I can tell you whether it can be fixed. But from experience, a lot of them have been fixed, and of course, to government resources. American government is a very powerful government, and they have a lot of technology. They have a lot of access to a lot of things. And of course, I also give an example. If it is a foreign document, they can verify through the embassy, through the Department of State. They can verify through intergovernmental cooperation. Sometimes in the past, they used to write letters to court, to different countries to ask them to verify. They don't do those things anymore because they know that people try to outsmart them by placing an insider over there so that when they write, the insider will respond. They don't do all those things anymore. But they have a lot of advanced technology that can expose the document. They also have intergovernmental cooperation. A nation state is not going to destroy her relationship with the United States because of one citizen of that country. No, they are not going to. No nation will do that. So the next question, what fraudulent document can result in a permanent ban to the US? Well, if the fraudulent document is in connection with a non-immigrant visa, forget it. You can never come to the US if you are still outside the US. If it is in connection with a non-immigrant visa, that's a permanent bar for you. You can never get American visa anymore. If it is in connection with an immigrant visa, if the applicant has a qualifying relative and is eligible for a waiver, yes, you may be able to waive it. But again, if the document is in connection with the type of petition that can lead to permanent bar, because there are some petitions that can lead to permanent bar. For example, if you submit a frivolous application for asylum, that will lead to a permanent bar. So if the document is in connection with an application for asylum that immigration determined to be frivolous, that can lead to a permanent bar. Another example is a 204C finding. 204C is fraudulent marriage. If the document is in connection with immigration's determination that the marriage is fraudulent, it can also lead to permanent bar. Now, the fact that you submit a fraudulent document by itself cannot lead to a permanent bar. It is the consequence. It is in what application or petition you submit it in connection with. That is why I gave you the example of the asylum and 204C, marriage fraud. So if the document was submitted in connection with an application for asylum and that application for asylum was determined to be frivolous, then it is a permanent bar. If the document was submitted in connection with a family petition based on marriage, and that marriage was determined to be a fraud, then it is a permanent bar. Let me give you an example of that. Instead of applying jointly with the spouse, the US citizen who filed the petition, the applicant on his own started putting documents together, creating documents, including tax return, federal tax return. If he submitted a fraudulent joint tax return to immigration, that tax return was never filed with immigration, with the IRS, but he submitted it to immigration, believing that immigration will not know. Unfortunately, they found out. So they now made a determination that the marriage upon which that document was submitted to prove that that marriage was fraud. And for that reason, that applicant was denied and was placed on permanent bar. In fact, the applicant was eventually removed, deported from the US. So those are examples of the type of document that can lead to a permanent bar. The next question. I obtained a passport using false information. The passport is legit, but the date of birth was wrong. Would this be fraud? Yes, it is fraud. When I was giving example of fraudulent document, I mentioned birth certificate. Date of birth is also another one. In fact, let me be honest with you, whoever sent this question, I know someone not my client, but it's somebody I know. I know someone who is a US citizen who was charged to court and the citizenship revoked because he submitted a wrong date of birth, a fraudulent date of birth. This person has been a US citizen for over 10 years before this issue came up. In fact, this person was from one of the African countries where, what do they call this thing? There was something that was introduced that required everyone in that country to submit fingerprinting. So it was the fingerprinting from this person's country and the fingerprinting from his American record that conflicted. They pull up different information, different name, different date of birth. And of course, the American government took that very seriously, especially in the days of terrorism. So they took it very seriously. So they sent the two fingerprinting to FBI for background check, for analysis, for fingerprinting analysis. So FBI report came back and confirmed that the two fingerprinting belong to the same individual. Guess what? They arrested this person and charged the person to federal district court. Of course, the person is in jail as I speak. So, yes, it's a serious thing. It is a serious thing. So, using a false date of birth, yes, it is still a fraud. In fact, it is something that can send someone to jail. Next question. How can I defend myself against immigration document fraud? What kind of attorney will I need? Well, I don't know how to answer this because I don't think there's any specific attorney that can handle immigration fraud. What I know is that you need immigration attorneys if you are dealing with immigration issue. If you are dealing with immigration issue, you need an immigration attorney. So that is all I can tell you. But I don't know any specific attorney whose specialized area of practice is to deal with fraudulent documents. That I don't know. You are trying to tell me something? The next question. What are the civil penalties for immigration-related document fraud? Well, it depends on the nature of the fraud, and it also depends on the kind of application you have filed. Like I said, the penalties, the petition can be denied without any additional civil penalty. In some cases, depending on the nature of the fraud, it can lead to a permanent bar. And in some cases, like the example I gave about a US citizen who falsified his date of birth and his name, it can also lead to jail. So, different consequences. The next question. I have a business. What to do if my employee's green card looks fake or suspicious? Oh, I have a business. What to do if my employees, if you allege fraud and it turns out to be legit, then there will be problem for you. I mean, the employer will probably go after you, or the employee will probably go after you. So you don't want to do that. What you can do if you want to protect yourself, 3 things you can do. Number 1, ensure that the employee signed Form I-9. That is your primary protection. Ensure that the employee signed Form I-9. So if the employee is not a permanent resident, but stated in the Form I-9 that he or she is a permanent resident, if immigration finds out or the government gets involved and it becomes a problem, you protect yourself because you acted on the information provided to you based on the I-9 and the supporting document. Secondly, if you want to go further to protect yourself, sign up for EVerify. Sign up for EVerify. So when the employee give you the green card, you can sign up for you can sign into EVerify and verify the legitimacy of the green card. All this can be done online. You don't need to go to immigration office or call immigration. You can do it online. All you need to do, register your business for EVerify. Then you'll be able to verify if the green card is legit or not. So if the green card is not legit, if you do EVerify and it turns out that the green card is not legit, you just let the client, the employee know that this green card is fake. Then you terminate the employment. Well, as an immigrant myself, I'm not going to advise you whether to report the employee or not. That will be your decision. But the option of reporting is also there. But it is optional, it's not mandatory. So that will be your choice. Next question. Can I get in trouble with the law if, as an employer, reject documents that appear not to be genuine? You can get in trouble if it turns out to be genuine, because, like I said, you can't make a determination based on appearance. Appearance is not sufficient. If you are suspicious because of the appearance, go further. Verify it. That is why the government created EVerify platform for employers. So go ahead and verify it. You can't just look at a document and conclude, because the way each individual handles documents are different. Some people are careless with the way they handle their documents. So you cannot, by its look, conclude that a document is forged. No. That can get you into trouble. It can get you into serious liability. So if you want to be sure, log into EVerify. EVerify will tell you if that person who brought a green card to you is a permanent resident or not. EVerify will tell you if the employment authorization that was submitted to you is valid or not. So why not just verify rather than take a decision based on look? Look can be deceptive. The next question. What form do I need to file a waiver for submitting fraudulent documents? Well, you can use Form I-601 if you are eligible. The form is Form I-601. If you are eligible, that's application for waiver of ineligibility, Form I-601. That's the form number. Keep the questions coming in. I see somebody here who just said hello. Maybe you can respond to the person. No question, just say hello. Oh, okay. Well, whoever sent this message, hello, sir. Well, hi. So if you have questions, send it in. I'm sure you can hear me live. So if you have questions, send it in. Keep sending your questions. We are discussing today the implications of fraudulent documents, submitting fraudulent documents, how it constitutes a ground of inadmissibility. And fraudulent document, in fact, fraudulent or false document it goes beyond paper document. It also includes providing a fake name. It includes providing fake date of birth. It includes providing fake or of fraudulent birth certificate, adoption document, divorce document, all these fake things. So fraudulent document covers all of them. So it's not limited to only physical document. It could be provision. In fact, there are cases of people who have children, but maybe when they were applying, they indicated that they do not have children. Again, that is also fraud. So if along the line, immigration finds out that such a person have a child, then whatever has been approved can still be revoked. The issue with fraud or fraudulent document is that any information or document that was provided to immigration that will eliminate the need to go further, that will cut off the line of inquiry, is considered fraud. So if you submit a document or if you provide an information that you know that based on this information, immigration will stop asking additional questions, it is considered fraud. So at any time that they found out that your information is not accurate or that the document you provided was not legit, then you can always face the consequence of providing. I gave you the example of a client who has, or of someone who has already been a US citizen, but who provided a fake date of birth when he was applying and provided a fake name when he was applying. Of course, he adopted the name. The fake name is the name he was using. The fake name is the name he used to become a US citizen. The fake name is what is stated in his American passport. But when immigration found out, it became a serious problem. And because he was already a US citizen, he was arrested by the FBI and charged to jail, even though he's a US citizen. So it doesn't matter at what stage they found out. Whatever the stage, you will still face the consequence. But it is better to face the consequence at a time that you can still fix it than at a time that you can no longer fix it. So every case is different. I cannot tell you whether you'll be able to fix your own or whether you will not be able to fix it, because every case is different. But majority of the time, if you come out clean, we may still be able to fix it, but not all the time. So if you know that you have provided a false document, or you are doing it right now, or you know that you have one which you have not tendered but you are planning to tender it, I will advise you to exercise caution. Hold on, put in a break, consult with an experienced immigration attorney so that you don't get yourself into a problem that you may not be able to solve. Okay, I think I have more questions. Can I get into? Oh no, I already answered that. Okay, what is the difference between fraud and willful misrepresentation? They are the same. Fraud is fraud. Fraud can be in different form. Fraud can be submitting a fraud document. Fraud can be providing false information. Fraud can be omission, omitting to provide the right information. So all of them, they are still the same. They still constitute fraud. And if you are eligible for a waiver, it is the same waiver for all of them. So it doesn't matter whether it's misrepresentation, whether it is fraud, it is the same waiver for all of them. They are in the same category and the same waiver is applicable to all of them. So willful misrepresentation, misleading information, fraudulent document, they are all the same category of fraud. The next question. I went to a notary that helped me with my immigration filings. I do not know what was submitted. How can I find out what was sent? That is very easy. Just request a FOIA. Request for copies of your file with immigration, and they will provide it. But let me say this. In some cases, especially if your case has triggered investigation, in some cases, immigration may not provide sensitive documents. If, for example, there is a fraudulent document in your file and that document has already triggered investigation, even if you request for copies of your file, they will omit that document from it, because the law protects the officers from not revealing their style of investigation. So they have the right to protect themselves, to not reveal their style of operation. So for that reason, you may not get the details. But basically, 90% of the time, if you request for a FOIA, request for copies of your file, you will see virtually everything in that file, except documents that belong to third parties. Because even if it is your file you are requesting, if you have documents that belong to third parties in your file, they will still not release it to you, except you have the consent of that third party. So even if the third party is your spouse, or the third party is your parent, or the third party is your child, they will still not release the information to you, except you provide a written consent from such third party. The next question. I went to someone for my taxes. I just found out the lady sent me fake documents that were never submitted to IRS. I used this document to file for my spouse. If I turn in the lady, will that help my case? Yes, it may help your case, but it may also hurt your case. So it depends on, you see, immigration is very, very complicated. It depends on the issue here. The way you have presented this question, I will say yes, it will help your case. But I also have to caution you. You see, because once they start investigation, they will get to the root of it. In this country, they don't make arrest until they have conducted investigation. So, investigation can take years, but at the end of the day, they will get to the root of it. So, there is a saying that he who lives in a glass house does not throw stone. He who lives in a glass house does not throw stone. Because if you throw stone and the person also throws stone back at you, it can shatter your glass. So there may be more reason to tread softly. But again, generally, yes. Will it help your case? Yes, it will. Especially if you are clean. He who comes to equity must come with clean hands. The next question. Based on your experience, is there hope after a document fraud determination? Oh, yes. It depends on the nature of the case. I stated this at the beginning. It depends on the nature of the case. It depends on what you have filed. It depends on whether you are eligible for a waiver. Let me say this. For those who file VAWA using fraudulent document, there is no hope. It's as simple as that. If you file VAWA and you use fraudulent document, you cannot be eligible for a waiver. So there is no hope. But if you are in a legitimate relationship with a U.S. citizen and you submitted a fraudulent document, Yes, you can apply for a waiver of fraud. There's a waiver for fraud. There's a waiver for fraud and misrepresentation. The only thing you will need is to show extreme hardship to your qualifying relative, and your US citizen spouse can be your qualifying relative. So in such a case, you can apply for a waiver. But if you are a VAWA applicant, the tendency or the implication of you filing VAWA is suggesting that you are no longer in good relationship with your spouse. So you cannot accuse your spouse of abusing you and then expect the same spouse to be a qualifying relative for you for the purpose of waiver. It doesn't work like that. But if you are in a legitimate relationship, your US citizen spouse can be a qualifying relative for you, and you can apply for waiver of fraud and misrepresentation. Keep the questions coming. We still have a few more minutes. Keep the questions coming. Today we are discussing the impact of fraudulent document or misrepresentation. It is a serious issue in today's America because of advance in technology. More and more cases are coming up with notices of intent to deny. More and more cases are being denied because of fraudulent document, because of fraudulent information. Recently, I know of a couple. The spouse is a US citizen trying to bring the other spouse from Africa. Now, unknown to this person, the spouse in Africa had previously applied for a US visa and has provided some inconsistent information in the previous visa. And this information he didn't disclose to the spouse here. So the spouse here was processing an immigrant petition on behalf of the other spouse, only to get to the embassy and they brought up inconsistent allegations. There's no way around this thing. They will find out. It's a matter of time. It's a matter of when, not if. So, if you have fraudulent documents that you have submitted or are contemplating on using, I will advise you to consult with an experienced immigration attorney to help you look into it and see if you are eligible for a waiver or if there are other ways to fix the problem. But I tell you, technology is advancing daily. Is advancing daily, and things are becoming more and more easier for the government and are becoming more and more difficult for regular people, especially foreigners, those who are looking for just a way of survival, but at the same time using fraudulent documents or providing misleading information or providing inconsistent or misrepresenting facts to immigration. They are discovering this thing on day-to-day basis. So think twice before you submit fraudulent documents. So keep the questions coming in. Keep the questions coming in. Okay. Keep the questions coming in. Remember to join us next week. Remember to subscribe to our channel so that when we go live, you will know and you'll be notified. So today we are discussing the implication of using fraudulent documents. You said I still have questions? Oh, okay. So remember to join us every Wednesday, 12 p.m. Dallas time. That is 1 p.m. Eastern time, 10 a.m. Pacific time. Remember to invite your family. Remember to invite your friends, colleagues. You will agree with me that this is a valuable information. Even if you are a U.S. citizen, you never know where the information will be useful. You never know what benefit you can get from all this information we are providing, and we are doing all this free of charge. So the only thing you can do to appreciate it is to invite other people. Let the information go around. If I keep it to myself, you will not benefit. So you should also invite others to let them also benefit from this information. So if there is no other question, at least we'll be hanging up today. Next week, Wednesday, will be another day. We hope to continue. What topic are we discussing next week? Anyway, we'll place the topic that we'll be discussing on our channel so that you join us next week. So remember to invite your family and friends. So in the absence of any other question, I will be rounding up for today. See you again next week. God bless you.
Fuck. Because like I told you, I'm like a member of this family. And call Asekun, he wants to talk to you.
There is a strategy that we like to do. We like to surprise them. We would call and Mr. Olu would talk to them, letting them know, well, maybe something has gone wrong with their case.
He made it look as if there was no approval. But then I announced, okay, I'm coming to your office. He said, okay, but just drive carefully and things like that. So okay, I'm waiting for you. Then when I came into the office, even the receptionist, her face was just blank. What is happening? He said, okay, let me tell him that you're around. I went to the office. He had already assembled the entire staff. And when I came in, wow, the balloon just busted. When he said, well, this is what, he made it look as if it was going to be like, and then he now, congratulations. He didn't say you were approved, he said, we have been approved.
They get so excited, they're happy, they start crying, they're just super excited. I had times where I cry with them because you feel what they're feeling. And you understand what they go through, and it, like I mentioned, like we all handle their case, we all know their cases, and it's like I am one of them, and I understand what's going on, and I'm happy for them that it's finally ended and they are now where they want to be. That is our main goal.
And I jumped. I didn't know how or where the strength came from. I didn't even think I could knock. The entire office, they were so happy, they were jubilating, as if it was one of them or their own child.
Having someone go from a super low to a high of something, such a positive result, it feels amazing, honestly.
It's really, really a big challenge. But again, we were able to put smiles in her face, and we were able to get her substantial amount of money from the insurance company. Even after paying all our medical bills, she was able to smile to the bank.
Our clients love us because we care. Their experiences are our experiences. Their joy is our joy. Their sorrow is our sorrow. So we really, really care about everyone that walks through those doors. And I think that that's what makes us special.
And then I rolled on the ground. All of them, Nigerians, how we react to issues. I was rolling on the ground, thanking God. Is that not caring what I was wearing or who I was looking? But the good thing is that the entire office was happy with me, not for me, because they felt that it was their win, it was their own. And we all celebrated. It was a good thing.
Another interesting thing about our office, we try as much as possible to put smiles in our clients'